All women have a very difficult choice to make. It is a choice that they don't like to talk about. It is a choice they don't recognize until it's usually too late. And if women understood this choice better, they'd have an easier time of it, but they don't, and they don't want to talk about it. But I'll talk about it right now in this video. I am Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0. I make a high six-figure location independent income while dating multiple attractive women, and I teach men like you how to do the same thing. What most women assume when they get to the point where they start thinking about settling down, and for some women that's, early 20s, for some women that's late 20s, for some women that's mid 30s, for a few unusual women that's late 30s, early 40s, but whatever the age is, women assume the following. They assume that they can just go out in the world, meet some guys, and they will find a guy who is perfect or at least very good for them. A good guy, a good income, who's not too ugly, who is intelligent, who's not a barbarian, who will be faithful to her, who will not cheat on her. Because, a nice guy wouldn't do that, Only assholes cheat on women. So, a nice guy wouldn't do that. A nice guy, but a guy who is pretty good in bed and makes her feel good and treats her right and buys her flowers and will never piss her off or rarely piss her off, will never make her bored or rarely make her bored. And all she has to do is date a few guys, meet a few guys, and she'll find this guy. It's a very simplistic view of the world. And I am shocked at the number of women who believe this, including women who are very intelligent, including women who have very high IQs, including women who have college degrees, including women who are not dumb young 18-year-olds, but women who are in their late 20s, 30s, even early 40s. And they assume, very similar to what men assume, that once they find this person, it'll all work out because this is a good guy. And because he's a good guy, he won't cheat, we won't argue, we'll never get divorced, we won't break up, we'll have great children together, if she wants children, and so on. This, by the way, is very similar to what men believe when a man finds this perfect virginal 19-year-old girl who is a Christian, and if they marry her, then everything will work out because I'm alpha, and she hasn't had sex with too many guys yet, and it'll just work out, and she'll give me blowjobs the rest of my life, and we'll never get divorced. We won't really have any major problems. It'll all work because somewhere out there is this perfect woman for me. Women do something similar, although the fantasy is a little more broad than with men. When in fact, that is not the case at all. And I've mentioned this before in my blogs and my books. Women have, when it comes to settling down or getting a very serious long-term boyfriend, I am not talking here about women who just want to date or women who want to date casually. I'm talking about women when they get to the point where they want a serious long-term boyfriend or a husband or the equivalent. Women have two choices, just two, and they're both bad. And the fact they have these two negative choices is something that I see a lot of women wrestle with once they realize that these are the only two choices they have. When they come to this realization, they're usually already in their mid-30s by then, and they have a really rough time with it. Before I get to these choices, if you like this content, this is helpful for you, you should subscribe to this channel. You should leave a like on this video, click the notification bell on this video, and leave a comment on this video. It doesn't really matter what you say. There's more interactivity and algorithm-friendly stuff I get on this content, the more of this content I will provide for you for free. Here are the two choices that women have when they want to get a serious boyfriend or settle down. They can settle down with one of two types of men. The first option is the nice guy who is a sweetheart, who will do whatever he is told, who will love her to death and worship the ground she walks on, and who will also be very, very boring, which doesn't sound bad when I say it, but I'll explain in a minute why that's really bad, especially for women. The second choice they have is more or less the opposite. A guy who is exciting, masculine, stimulating, attractive. I don't necessarily mean physically attractive, although that could be a component of it. I'm talking about personality attractive in terms of masculinity, but it's a guy who will maybe not be very nice all the time, a guy who will not do what he's told, a guy who will be inappropriate in various ways, and a guy who will basically piss her off, at least eventually. Not immediately, but eventually. So the two choices she has is she will eventually be bored or she will eventually be pissed off. Now, why is bored a problem? Let's talk about that for a minute. As I have analyzed in great detail in my books and my blogs over the past 15 or so years, women have a very, very low threshold for boredom. They can't be bored. They don't like being bored. If a woman is bored, she will immediately go out into her life and do something, even if it's negative, to stir shit up so things are not boring anymore, including stir up things that are negative, cause negative problems in her life, make a massive change, cheat, break up, get divorced, do something stupid at work, do something stupid with her finances, do something stupid with her health. That is how women are wired. Women hate being bored. It is the worst emotion you can possibly have when you're a woman. Now, what women will say is, that's not right. We don't want to be sad. We don't want to be mad. Incorrect. When a woman is sad or mad, she is experiencing an emotional high. And as I've analyzed many times, women are all about emotional highs and emotional lows. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. She needs to feel a constant state of fluctuating emotions. That is how the female brain is designed. Women cannot just be neutral all the time. They cannot be bored all the time. That is insanity to a woman. They hate that. They rather actually have problems or happiness, either one, than be bored. Is that true with men? No. Men, and this is unfortunate about men, but it's true, men are just the opposite. Most men, not all men, but most men can just, get a boring wife, have a boring job, work at his boring job all day that he tolerates and doesn't really like, go home, sit on the couch with a beer, shove his hand down his pants like Al Bundy, and watch Netflix for 3 or 4 hours, and then go to bed and do that for 25 years straight. Men can do that, can't they? I know a lot of men who live that way, and you probably do too. Can a woman live that way? No. Women can't be bored. So when women settle for the beta male, the nice guy who kisses her ass and does whatever he's told and is very appropriate and is a great guy to show off to her mom and her dad when she gets married, eventually, not immediately, but eventually, this guy's going to get very boring. And you're going to hear all kinds of complaints to this woman about how boring he is, or how dumb he is, or about how unmotivated he is, or about how lazy he is. Various versions of this. How bad he is in bed, how stupid he is. You're going to get all these types of complaints because she chose option one, the boring, nice guy. In other words, the beta male. That's option one. Let's talk about option two. Option two is basically the opposite of what I just said. Option two is she can settle down with a guy, an alpha male. Option two is she can settle down with a guy who is not boring at all. A guy who is exciting, a guy who is constantly interesting, a guy who is very, very attractive. And again, when I say attractive, I don't mean physically attractive, although that may be a component of it. I'm talking about attractive in terms of his personality, his confidence, his outcome independence, his lifestyle, his drive, his motivation, his masculinity. He's very attractive to her. He's exciting. The sex is good. The relationship is exciting, and it's always exciting. He's exciting. Every day is a new different thing. So women love that. Sounds great. Here's the problem. That guy will not do what he's told. He is an alpha male. Alpha male 2.0, alpha male 1.0. It doesn't matter. He's an alpha male. Alpha males are not submissive. Alpha males don't do what they're told. Alpha males are inappropriate. Alpha males don't necessarily take out the trash when they're supposed to take out the trash. Alpha males flirt with other women and in most cases eventually fuck other women. Alpha males cheat. Alpha males travel. Alpha males are crass and rude and just shoot their mouths off and say things that sometimes are hurtful. Alpha males are often not very appropriate. The alpha male is not necessarily, sometimes it is, but not necessarily the man that she wants to take home to mommy and daddy and show her, look at this sweetheart I'm going to marry. He's sitting there joking around and, swearing and a bunch of other shit like that, right? It's very similar to the male corollary to this would be if a man brought home a woman to mom and dad to marry and a woman had gigantic, size H boobs and a gigantic ass and she's dressed all slutty. Men don't like doing that, right? Now, I wouldn't mind doing that. I don't follow societal programming. I'm outcome independent. But most men will have a problem doing that. They want to bring home the nice girl who looks like the girl next door. The female equivalent of that is that she wants to bring home to mommy and daddy for her serious boyfriend or possible husband, the good, nice guy who works at Microsoft, who, buttons his shirt up to here and is very appropriate, has a good job and so on, and is very polite and does what he's told. Not the badass, cool alpha male who she finds extremely attractive. Not that guy. If for some reason she chooses option two and she settles down with the alpha male, the exciting guy who is not submissive and doesn't do what he's told and is not appropriate and does a lot of shit wrong, she will eventually, not immediately, but eventually get mad. She will get very frustrated that this guy is out banging other women or out hanging out with his friends all the time or is not being very empathetic or is not being appropriate when they hang out with their friends or things of that nature. He's exciting. She's still attracted to him. She still likes him. Maybe he's motivated at work and makes a lot of money. He's very masculine. So that part is okay, but she's pissed off and she will give all kinds of complaints about how he's not empathetic, how he's an asshole, how he's a liar, how he's a cheater, how he's a this or a that. Nonstop complaints. And again, it will be a very different set of complaints from if she married or settled down with the first guy, the beta male. It's the opposite level of complaints, but she will still complain. And in both cases, the relationship will fail because she can't be bored, but she also doesn't want to be pissed off the rest of her life. Right? Right. So therefore, when she makes the decision to settle down and get a serious boyfriend, she must choose between one of these two horrible options. There is no third option. I have spoken with many women, usually women in the 30s or 40s, who will talk about how they can't find a guy to date, they can't find a boyfriend, they can't find a guy they like. They can find guys, women can get laid whenever they want, but they can't find that exact type of guy they want. And when people say, or if I say, or either their friends or family members say, well, why don't you just go date a nice guy? A nice guy who just, loves you and just takes care of you, just sweet, normal, simple guy. They'll say, but I'm not attracted to men like that. And then they'll say, well, why don't you date a guy like Caleb? Or why don't you go date an alpha male? Why don't you go date a kick-ass guy? And they go, fuck that, no. Right. So they end up finding no guy, or in most cases, here's actually what ends up happening. So before I get to that, let me tell you what most guys think. In the red pill world, most people look at this scenario, most men, red pill men, and they say, well, the problem is you're going to have a bunch of single women in their 30s and 40s. You have a whole bunch of single women and they'll never be able to settle down because they won't be able to find this magical guy because they have these two choices. That is actually incorrect. If you look at the statistics, that is actually not what happens. What actually happens is what? Women will choose option one. She will choose a beta male. She will choose the guy who is nice and appropriate, who looks good when you marry him to mommy and daddy and to her friends, and then she'll eventually be bored and she'll break up or she'll get divorced. That's what women will end up doing, most women. It's not typical that men marry alpha males, although there is a few. My wife chose option two, but she is unusual. Most women don't want to choose option two. Most women will choose option one. And yes, there are a few women who just opt out and say, I'm not going to date anyone, but those are statistical outliers. Most women, 30s and 40s, will not do this. They will instead choose option one. They'll be married or settle down for a while, and then they will start bitching and moaning and complaining. And at a bare minimum, the women will cheat on the guy, or typically she will eventually leave the guy or break up with the guy. Because again, women can't be bored long term. They don't have that ability. Men do, women don't. If you need more help with your dating life or relationship life, you can join SMIC. That is the monthly mentorship and audio training program that I have. It's at joinsmic.com. We do 2 or 3 video calls a month there with me. Plus you get over 100 audio trainings. It's very inexpensive. Check it out. It's awesome. Now, how do women justify this or mentally react to this? Some women actually say, yeah, this sucks. I only have 2 choices, but that's not typical. What most women do is they come up with the myth of the submissive alpha male. I have written about this extensively in my blogs. The submissive alpha male. And this is a myth. This man does not exist. Let me say that again. This man does not exist. It's like looking for a unicorn or a dragon. This man does not exist because alpha males are not submissive. If they are, they're not alphas, they're betas. So let me describe this mythological man called the submissive alpha that women seek, often for decades. And for some reason, they never find him and they're very confused. The submissive alpha male is a strong, confident, badass, masculine, ass-kicking alpha who goes into the world and kicks ass and is super motivated and bosses people around and makes a lot of money in most cases and just kicks ass in work. And he comes home and he kicks ass and he's masculine and tough and people serve him and women want to fuck him and men envy him and men want to be him and men look up to him because he's so dominant and strong and he's amazing in bed. He fucks the shit out of her. He slams her against the wall and makes her come 27 times because he's a super badass fucking man. And he takes out the trash whenever he's told. And whenever he comes home, he hands over his paycheck and says, yes, dear. And whenever he's told what to do, he says, yes, dear, I'll do that, dear. You're so pretty. I love you so much, honey. And he tiptoes around his little wife or his girlfriend and follows her around like a little puppy dog because he's very appropriate and he never cheats and he never looks at the other women and he always is faithful, always all the time. And he never drinks too much. He never says bad words. You see my point? This is the fantasy man that women are seeking. And this is the fantasy man that doesn't exist. And this is the emotional reaction that women have when they realize, or in many cases don't realize, they only have these two negative choices and they both suck. They make up this third option. The myth of the submissive alpha male, the man that doesn't exist. And I have personally seen women spend decades of their lives, wasting decades of their lives looking for this fantasy man that doesn't exist. Going on first dates, going on second dates, dating a guy for a few months and then having it fail because he's not a perfect submissive alpha male. Right. He's either a beta male who drives her crazy with boredom, or he's an alpha male, a true alpha male, who eventually pisses her off because he's not following the playbook. It's one of those two. What is the answer for women? If women have these two horrible choices, what is the answer? There is no answer. They have to pick one of these. The answer for women is to pick one of these and do their best to mitigate the negatives of what they don't like. That is what my wife has chosen to do. Now, my wife is lucky. She didn't marry an alpha male. She married an alpha male 2.0. So fortunately for her, I'm an alpha male, but I never tell her what to do. I don't put restrictions on her life. I never raise my voice. I don't boss her around because we alpha male 2.0s don't tell people what to do. It's kind of nice. But I am an alpha male. Do I follow the picture perfect traditional example of how a husband should behave? No, I have sex with other women on a regular basis. It's a non-monogamous marriage. Am I a perfect gentleman at all times? Or am I kind of a crass barbarian sometimes? Yeah. Do I show 100% perfect empathy at all times and buy her flowers? No, I don't. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. I'm not a beta male. If I was a beta, I'd be kissing her ass every day. But I don't do that. So if she wants a long-term marriage or relationship to work, she has to come to terms with the negative aspects of the man that she settled down with. That is the least bad answer that women have. Either you marry a beta male and you put up with the fact that he's not going to be very attractive to you long-term, he's not going to be very exciting, he's going to be kind of boring, and you put up with it, you make that work somehow, or you settle down with the alpha male and you put up with the fact that he might bang other chicks, that he's kind of a dick sometimes, that he's not as empathetic, that he doesn't follow the playbook sometimes, and you just make that work in your life. That's the option. The only other option you have is to be single for the rest of your life. And as I've discussed with men, that doesn't make most people happy. Most people, men and women both, are not happy long-term if they're single for the rest of their lives. There are rare exceptions that rule. As usual, the exceptions prove the rule. Of course, one of my answers is to not be monogamous at all because it solves a lot of problems. It prevents a lot of drama and arguments. And if you want more detail on that, you can watch this video right here where I cover the 47 objections to non-monogamy. I go through every objection there is. You can check it out. I will see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.